Good evening. Welcome to the Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. It is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. We are in the Wyndham High School auditorium. May I have a roll call, please?
Christina Small,
Here.
Jessica Bridges,
Here.
Jenny Butler, Jody Carroll,
Here.
Caitlin Downs,
Here.
Mark Scavone,
Here.
Joe Kellner, here, Shar Jewell,
Here.
Mike McClellan, here, Lillian Nugent.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments tonight.
Now is the time for public input. The purpose of public input is to provide an opportunity to address the board on matters specific to our schools and educational matters. All other comments beyond that scope are not appropriate for this meeting. The board will listen carefully to all members of the public but will not respond. Speakers are expected to follow rules of common decency and decorum. Interrupting any speaker or board member during commentary is not allowed. We ask that all speakers address the board, not the audience. Each person will be permitted to address the board one time during public comment with a maximum speaking time of 3 minutes. Sharing time with another speaker is not permitted. I will alert the speaker at the 3-minute mark. If speakers do not complete their comments within the 3 minutes, they may submit a written statement to the board. Written statements are also accepted from those who do not wish to speak publicly. Requests for information or concerns that require further research will be noted and referred to the superintendent for further action if necessary. Discussions of matters involving individual students is not permitted during public comment due to the privacy, confidentiality, and due process rights of any RSU 14 student. Comments regarding any individual staff, either by name or specifically identifiable by position, are not permitted. If the comment continues, the mic will be turned off. Complaints about any district employee should follow the process outlined in Policy KEB, Public Complaints about School Personnel, and are not permitted during public comment. We ask that adults share their first and last name in the town they reside in. Students are only required to share their first name. Is there anybody who wishes to speak? Seeing none, I propose public comment. Next up, superintendent's report.
Great, so I have just a couple quick things to share tonight. First of all, on Saturday, I'm not sure if anyone else had a chance to come and see Wyndham High School's one-act production, which was part, I think, of 8 different plays that were done here at Wyndham High School as a regional site. On Wyndham High School, absolutely outstanding. They did an on-stage radio show, like an old time, with complete with sound booths and everything else that went along with it. Did an absolutely fantastic job. It was a hilarious one act. They did not score high enough though, where they get to go to the state competition. But our kids did an absolutely amazing job. And one thing I always love about one acts is that it's entirely produced. All the technical aspects, costumes, everything else is done by the kids. So very, very student focused. Adults help a little bit, but kids did a fantastic job and should be congratulated. It was a great performance. The other fun thing is that that day where we have 8 different high schools that are here, the entire auditorium was filled with theater groups from all sorts of different schools that are around us, and kids from different schools cheering each other on. It was a fun day. And a great chance to see that. So I think it was Gorham and Spruce Mountain are going to be advancing on to the state act from here. A couple other things, just a reminder everyone that Friday, March 15th is a teacher workshop day. That is one of 2 workshop days that our staff have throughout the year. And really that is one of 2 days where we have concentrated professional development time for our staff. So no school on Friday, just to again remind everyone. Some important dates coming up for our build project on March 23rd, and any board members who might be interested, there will be a site walk of the new school site. It's a planning board site walk. We can't actually interact with the planning board, but for that walk though, the building envelope as well as all the roads and ball fields will be staked out so that you get an idea of scale and where everything is going to be located on the site. So if you've not had a chance to visit, and I'll include this in my superintendent's notes, March 23rd, we don't have a time yet, but have an opportunity to be able to walk the site, get an idea of scale of the building, where it's going to be, and then also how we'll be interacting and using the campus. Also, just want to add March 25th, we have our our second planning board meeting, and the opportunity for the planning board to weigh in. Things continue to progress at the state level with the project, and it looks like right now that we will receive final approval on May 8th to go out to bid, and we'll be going out to bid on May 9th. So as soon as we get that green light from the Department of Education, we're ready to go, and we're still shooting for that end of July breaking ground and getting things moving on that. I know I had shared last week that the building committee last Thursday night was going to get a first look at the building. Our architectural team and interior designer absolutely nailed it. And what they did so well is that it didn't feel like it was an overly Raymond building. It didn't feel like it was an overly Wyndham building. It felt like it was an RC14 building that celebrated this wonderful place we have with all the lakes, rivers, and streams, the colors, the design, a huge focus on the Sebago Lakes region. In fact, the center spine area, which has several large walls, includes a large outline of Sebago Lake with Wyndham Raymond Middle School, and just a great water and nature theme. The colors for the different team areas were introduced to us with a great blue, a great green, and the committee struggled with a creamsicle color that people are going to be going back to the drawing board. So it's my hope that we can invite the architectural team back in the very near future to do an overview. I anticipate the building committee is going to see some renderings, some nice 3D fly-through renderings of the auditorium and the gym space very, very soon. So things are progressing with that as well. And at that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Next up, we have board roundtable. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Well, fun thing, I work at Augusta at the State House and happened to be up there, and it was a commotion in the house this morning, like really early, like 8 o'clock. And our basketball team was up there, state champions. And that was a lot of fun. A few parents were there. They got the special treatment, which means they got to go in the house and get pictures taken on the podium and all that. And then got invited into both political parties invited them into their caucuses. So they were very well behaved, Chris, at least from my look. And that was fun. It was a fun thing to see.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else? Okay, we can move on to committee reports. Finance? Char?
I always forget that.
It's okay.
Why did I do that? So finance did meet today, talked about where we are for budget for the remainder of this fiscal year. Had a peek under the tent for what's coming down for requests for facilities for future budgeting and projects. And talked about a couple of the audit items, results of the audit for last fiscal year, which went well. So overall, we're in good shape. And one thing that we talked about a little bit was the financial expertise that central office has and brings to the table for RSU 14, which benefits not only the taxpayers, which is really important, but also staff and students. The staff definitely knows what they're doing and is able to manage money well for the benefit of the RSU. And we appreciate that as a committee, and me personally as a committee member, school board member, and a taxpayer, that we have good financial controls in place and we manage our money well. And so I just want to say thank you.
Facilities?
We have not met since the last time.
Policy? We also have not met. We had to reschedule, waiting on some admin feedback on our expulsion policy. Just want to give them an opportunity to speak into that. So we will meet March 25th next. Curriculum?
We don't meet until April 1st.
All right, moving on to report of the secretary. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the minutes of the March 6th, 2024 meeting.
Thank you. For discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, now we are moving on to 18 cost centers presentation. And first up is the Director of Nutrition, Jeannie Riley.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight to present the budget for the school nutrition department. My name is Jeannie Riley, and I am the Director of School Nutrition. And I also want to thank all of you for all of your continued support of our program. We love to innovate. You know that we love to innovate, and you support that. And that's really, it helps us to thrive and grow and to be just really engaged as professionals. As you look at my budget, you will see an increase in the number of staff. We have an increase of 1.5. We're adding 1.5 assistant cooks, which is a new position. Our kitchen helpers have become assistant cooks to really reflect the actual jobs that they were doing in the kitchen, helping to prep and things like that. But we're adding a full-time assistant cook at Wyndham Primary School and a part-time assistant cook at Manchester School. And the reason for that is to accommodate the increase in participation that we continue to see due to breakfast and lunch being available to all children at no cost. So we're really feeding a lot more students than we have in the past. And then the other areas of increase in our budget have to do with food cost. The cost of food, as you all know, as everybody who shops for food knows, food is increasingly expensive and continues to be expensive. So not only is food costs going up, but we're also buying more food because it takes more food to create hundreds of more lunches than we were prior. And additionally, so food cost, more food and higher cost food. And then additionally, our labor costs are going up. We have an increased wage structure this year that will continue per the collective bargaining agreement. So our staff, our school nutrition staff got a fairly healthy increase last year from last school year to this school year to really make us more competitive with other food service operations in the area, other entry-level positions, food service and grocery stores and retail establishments. We were not competitive. We had a lot of difficulty hiring. So we were able to get a nice increase for our staff. So that's part of the labor cost. And then we've also, to accommodate the increase in production, the increase in participation with our meals, have increased some of our staff's hours to make them full-time. They may have been 5-hour people or 5.5 hours per day, and they were actually needing to work 6 hours a day or 6.5 hours a day. So you'll see some discrepancies or differences there. Some of our staff have moved from part-time to full-time, which makes them benefits eligible. And then last year, we created 3 new positions: Raymond Elementary School, Wyndham High School, Wyndham Primary School. And then for next year, what you're seeing in the budget for next year is an increase of 1 full-time person for Wyndham Primary School, which is serving over 1,000 meals today when you add breakfast and lunch together. And right now with 5.5 people. So, and then Manchester School, which is also seeing a really big increase. They're serving over 325 lunches a day and about 200 breakfasts a day. And the USDA gives us a formula that helps us kind of plug in the numbers, how many people we're serving, and how many staff hours we have. And we've used that tool. It's called a meals per worker hour tool. And we've used that to kind of gauge where we need to, where we've needed to add our staff so that we're putting staff appropriately into the kitchens where we need them. And so that's mostly where our increases are. We have a very nice Healthy Meals Initiative grant that we received last summer for $125,000, which is really taking care of some of our equipment needs as far as new and more efficient equipment. But we did leave some money in our own budget as well for equipment. And that's all I have. I'm happy to entertain questions.
Just before questions, just a couple of reminders to the board that first of all, Jeannie's budget lives outside the regular school budget. And it's an enterprise account where money from sales and then also what we were able to draw down from the federal national school lunch program are to cover the costs. And there's actually this great sheet that's in board packets. I think it's right after your cover sheet with the overview. If you go back to 2019, the RSU had to cover $84,000 of costs for a shortfall within food service. 2020, that was $337,000 that was covered, and then really for the expenses that we went from 4 years ago today, March 13th, to the end of the school year without serving any meals. So that was covering salaries without any income. And then 2021, 87,000. And then you notice that the last 2 years, and then also moving forward for next year, we are not including anything in the budget to cover food service shortfall. So again, important to notice so that yes, Jeannie comes and has her budget approved by all of you, but it's actually one that lives outside the regular budget.
Just
I just wanted to first off say thank you very much for your creative way of introducing new foods to these kids, because my kids barely miss their hot lunch at all. And it's great when they come home and are excited. Do we know if we're gonna have free breakfast and lunch for that next school year, the 2024-2025 school year yet?
That's next year, right?
Yeah.
I'm so confused about which year it is. To our knowledge, yes, that will continue. It is voted on settled law in the state of Maine. So it would be, the only way that would not happen is if the governor, whoever is governor, decides to not fund that through their budget. But it would also have to be legislated as well. I think the trend, we're one of 8, moving towards 9 states in the country that are offering universally free meals. I think it's a trend that will continue. There are some budgetary issues in other states, but so far Maine has done pretty well with budgeting for that. And it really, the impact is just phenomenal when you walk around the cafeteria and the majority of our students are eating school lunch versus what it used to be. And, you know, it's just amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you. So, a couple of comments. First off, thank you for the speaker on stage. That made a huge difference in the last time. Similar to what was just said, just huge commendation for the work that gets done by your team and you across the district. It's a pride of the district. If you have any suggestions on how to get my kid to get something other than sun butter and jelly every single day. I did have a couple of questions going through the budget. Marge, I'm trying to do this right. I'm on purple page 3. Employee training and development, a pretty healthy increase there. You would put in your notes, conference in Boston, and I certainly fully support staff training and development. I'm just curious what that is.
So this year, the School Nutrition Association's annual conference, which happens every summer, is in Boston. We think it's a really great opportunity to take a few of our team down. I have been fortunate enough to go for many years, often not costing the district any money at all, but as part of Maine School Nutrition Association's leadership team. So we have budgeted some funds to take some of our managers or cooks, whomever, you know, has the time to go to this conference. It's really powerful to network with peers from school nutrition programs around the country. So we're real leaders in Maine, and they'll go to a Maine School Nutrition Association conference, and sometimes they think we could have led those sessions. So we think there's going to be some great value for them to hear from peers across the country.
Awesome. I fully support it. I think that's great. Just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
Repairs and maintenance. I looked at 22, 23, and year-to-date 24, consistently well over 20,000. The budget for 24 was 12.5. The budget for 25 was 12.5. So just voicing some anxiety there that there's not enough in that line. I'm curious.
You know, it just, our equipment is getting old. It's always really difficult to know if we're budgeting enough. We do have a fund balance that we can pull from, so that even if we don't budget, we are carrying over a fund balance, so we have been able to pay for those costs. It is time, like even in this building, which feels like a really new building still, our equipment is starting to age out. You know, if you've bought an appliance lately, you know that if you get 10 years out of an appliance, you're doing really good. And we're there for this building, well over that. And so, you know, we're starting to look at having some replacement plans in place. But sometimes we'll go and not need hardly any repairs. But we've also just recently changed to a new repair company, which has been much more attentive to our needs, and gives us much better information as we get the repairs done, and that it's given us a better global perspective of where we're heading.
Yeah, I think what I would say there is, you know, given that the equipment is aging, that's great that we have a better relationship now with the company, but we're only in February 27,000. I think
Yeah.
we're probably some more. So we look at that and jump to purple 6. Again, kind of looking at trending versus budget. So on the food line and on the a la carte line, compared to the 24 budget, pretty consistent relatively, but compared to actual year-over-year spend on food and a la carte, pretty substantial increases there. And I'm just wondering what is driving those projections.
I think what's driving the increase, the
Yeah.
projection for an increase,
Exactly.
food cost and just buying more food. And it's a little challenging to pull apart, like our a la carte expenses are easy. That's basically food that we in general purchase and don't utilize through the school meal, things like bottled water, we don't use that. And so those invoice, some of it's just coding of invoicing even actually, like bottled water, a la carte. We don't use it as part of a meal. Some things are a little trickier, like pizza, we use it for a meal. We also sell it a la carte. Sometimes it gets a little gray, like where those costs get coded.
I think that's incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Further questions? Go ahead. I just had a question about your comment and summary around grants. Clearly you've got more to do than search for grants, but you do a terrific job with that. Thinking through resources, or do you have support in writing those grants? And do we have an opportunity to support that in any way to assist with some of those that might be going into next year?
So our Healthy Meals Initiative grant goes through 2025. And we have line item pieces of equipment that would still need to be purchased. Part of that is waiting for more infrastructure to make those pieces of equipment actually feasible in our kitchens. For instance, either propane or more electricity at Manchester School to accommodate an additional oven to accommodate the increase in meals. So we are very fortunate to get the Healthy Meals Initiative grant. There's another grant that we're looking at right now through Full Plates Full Potential, which I'm looking at with Katahdin School. We actually can't be the lead because it's through that same pot of Healthy Meals Initiative money, but to bring more local foods into the state. But I feel like we have great support. Christine is always really great to help us in writing grants and helping wordsmith them so that we get the grants and things like that. So I think we're in a good place.
You all set? Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, next up is Technology Director Bob Hickey.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time tonight. Before I start, I would just like to thank the community, the board, administration, everyone who's always supported technology in this year. The support is critical factor for the health of our education. We just appreciate everyone's support. So I'd just like to highlight some of the more expensive items in the budget and focus on that, and then take direct questions and some more detail it is. So we are purchasing 6th grade MacBook Airs for 250 units for students and roughly 37 for staff. It's hard to know because this process with the staff, state, I'm sorry, getting details from them, it's been a little bit painful this year. But that's our best estimate as to where that will flesh out in the prior years. We have M1 MacBooks, M2s have been out. We haven't really invested a lot of those. And M3s were just released. We just found out new data within the last week or so that Apple's going to discontinue the M1s and push the M2s. So we hope that the state is going to give us M2s over M1s. And we've allocated enough in the offset. It's like $150 difference between the M2 and the M1. We can get the M2s if they're available to us this year. M3s clearly won't be available. But we're trying to get as much equipment as we can, fiscally responsible. If we were to save the $150 per unit, get the M1s, we're not sure if a year, 2 out, it might not take enough. So we're not spending, we're being fiscally responsible. In addition to that, we're replacing 100 iPads, and those are largely to support pre-K, kindergarten and 1. And then there are some uses of those in the district with special ed needs and other things. There's 10 here in the high school, so there's other grades as well. And we've been doing this. Last year we bought 100. This year we're buying 100 and trying to phase that in over time. But once we have our version 6, 7, 8, and 9, and the 6s are getting really long in the tooth. The ones we get our version 10, phase out the older ones and just keep that going. So we're not buying an entire grid at a time. We're just buying what seems like a reasonable number to keep things going forward. Another item is our storage area network. This was in the budget last year, and I think it was probably $50,000 we had in the budget last year. It didn't make the budget because clearly there were higher needs, but the one we have is getting older, and it's critical not only for user data, but our virtual servers. A virtual server is you spin up multiple servers on one piece of hardware. It's more efficient than buying all these different pieces of hardware. We have 22 virtual servers now, and this is down from where we used to be 28 or 30. So we're consolidating more and more services on virtual servers, being conservative enough that it's not going to bury the server. So we're doing everything we can to get by. Virtual servers, you don't hear a lot of that in schools, but it's what businesses do, and it's the most efficient things. We are very much like a business of almost 3,200 kids, roughly 700 staff, approaching 4,000 people. That's somewhat similar to like even South Florida. We're a big organization. We have a lot. We do a lot. We're lucky. We're blessed to have great tech staff with bad skills. We've got Mike Pelletier, who does customized databases. He makes everything talk to everything else. We've got Mark on the network. We've got all the field guys who support all the Apples, the PCs, the iPads. We're just really blessed to have the people that we do. There's only 8 of us, and we do a lot. We take vitamins. So, in addition to that, the educational software line has gone up significantly. But the reason for that is we had what's called the Learning Management System grant during the COVID years, and those funds have dried up. The ESSER money has dried up. So we put expectations and supports out there rather than pull the rug out. These are shifting course costs to local. And then also in the last few years, if you look at my budget, it looks like it's increasing, and it is. But then there's times when it's not. So we've taken things that were in other areas like the curriculum area or Nancy's facilities area. We've moved software and items. So it's moving from one pocket to the other. So we've made every opportunity and every effort to keep costs that are responsible. So at this point, I'm happy to take detailed questions on other areas.
Sure.
Thank you, Bob. Question, what do we do with the equipment that we're phasing out, like the old iPads, laptops, and all of that? What happens to that? Where does that stuff go?
Well, this is the first year that we've sold MacBook Airs that were really, some of them, there's roughly 2,000 of them that were in the process of selling, and over 1,000 of them were approaching that. So there's not a whole lot of tread left on the tire. We're done with it. but we're selling them. We've gotten one check so far, a deposit check for roughly 29,000. Hope to get 119,000 from the whole sale. It's hard to estimate that exactly because it's the condition and then they're being assessed remotely. So we're in the process of that now. That's what we're trying to do.
So is that estimate factored into your proposed budget?
I'm not sure.
No, so anything that would be coming back as revenue like that would go back to a miscellaneous line as revenue that come back. And just, again, the life cycle of a laptop in RC14 is that things that start and make it through 3 to 4 years, usually 4 years, either at the high school year or at the middle school level, then take a time where they spend 4 to 5 years at the elementary level. And usually by the time it's made it to the elementary level, we either can't update it or it's reached a point where battery life and other things have. So Bob did quite a bit of research on companies that are out there that do either refurbishment or parts, and even to get $120,000 for being able to then repurpose, which does come into miscellaneous revenue, but to be able to look at how we use those things and how we can go ahead and recycle them responsibly as well. But I do even remember a few of the white Macs, which I think were late 90s, early 2000s that were kicking around for a while as well. So those things do get a good life. The other thing that Bob didn't mention, which is the MLTI program, which used to just cover 7th and 8th graders and then look to do a refresh every couple of years. State has taken a very different approach with that, which is that they're now supporting the purchase of 1 grade level per year and then providing a $485 offset on that for computers. And so for this year, election would be 6th graders to be able to put that. The other thing, and I know past boards have struggled with this, is that it's nice also to get in a replacement cycle so that you're not hitting multiple grade levels at once, but trying to cycle through so that we have a constant amount that's budgeted for computer purchases. And I know Bob and his team have been working with that. The other thing I just want to compliment Bob is that through board support, there's been a lot of work that's been done on network infrastructure and solving some legacy issues with our network, and just want to thank them because a lot of issues that we're seeing in the past have been since taken care of, and also some great customer service as far as when things do go down, lots of good information coming out, and also things getting repaired very, very quickly and getting us back up and running. So Bob, thank you and your team for working on that. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the detail, and thanks for your detailed notes in your budget. First off, 8 people to do what you guys do is impressive. It's a lot. I'm on purple, page 28. There's one line that stuck out to me in particular. Lease equipment, non-instructional. We had something budgeted last year and something again this year, but no spend throughout the line. I'm just curious with that.
Lease equipment, non-instructional. So if we were to buy anything like network related and do it over multiple years, that would fall in that category. It'd be non-educational. That would be networks.
So we had a budget of, it's like 18.5 roughly, no spend, 24, 23, 22. But we are projecting to spend again for 25. So is that?
Well, in the past, this board and administration have been very supportive, and we needed to upgrade our firewall, which was a big hit in the past. And because we had a firewall, it was supposed to be adequate, but it was not. And then we've got 2 smaller firewalls for remote locations, one for Winchester, one for Reagan. And we needed a core switches on it. So we've had some expenses. We're sort of the next infrastructure thing we really need the most is the storage area network. Of course, then we're going to budget what we're going to put in the middle school.
It's also, there's a budgeting piece, which I can follow up with Stacy on, which is that when we do a lease for technology, and let's say we're going to buy 100 computers and 25 go to staff and 75 go to kids, 25 that go to staff go into non-instructional, 75 go on into the instructional side. So depending upon where the budget started out, where the purchase happened, and how that got reallocated back, I can take a look at just to see where that past piece is. Because it may have been that we bought student computers and then did buy up staff or bought staff from another pot of money. And took care of it that way, but I'll follow up with that.
And lease accounting is completely changed. So that to it. You set me up perfectly for my next and final comment. And you know, it's a comment, I guess, to fellow board members, the public perhaps, and I'm sure you're going to agree with what I say. But when you talk about things like funding a storage area network and funding firewalls, and things like that, I'm not sure if folks saw it. There was really great NPR, I think it was NPR, I'm that wrong article this week about schools being prime targets for cyber attacks. My employer is public knowledge, is still going through the results of a cyber attack. And I think that when we think about these things, we think about certainly protecting our network, protecting our data. It's not skin. Anyway, I want to make that comment.
Just if I can speak briefly to that, because I think it's important for the public and staff to know, we consciously 4 years ago or 5 years ago stopped hosting all of our financial and our staff data. And even our student data is now a different vendor and is held off, so that in the event that we're now more reliant on our financial vendor and their security, because they're more likely to be upgrading security and firewalls and everything else than we are. So everything is a remote into that location in order to be able to get to our data. So I know student data, we're doing some work on moving some things, plus we work on some privacy, but all of our staff financial and financial, because a district near us was hacked in and was ransomed, and that was the point where we said, you know, we don't want to have this data anymore. So thank you, Bob, and your team for doing that.
I agree, and Chris, I certainly don't want to imply that we're not what we should. And I did notice, you know, as I read through your comment lines for your budget, we have a good investment in outside consultants, antivirus, all those things. My point is simply that when it comes to investing in hardware, firewalls, things like that, storage area network is important to the latest greatest. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate it.
Arch? Who's your hand up?
Yeah, yes, I got lost in his conversation. See,
That's very good.
I'm just curious, because we haven't talked about, damage to the, iPads and the computers and whatever, I know at one point, are we still, I don't remember anymore, because the parents have to pay for the insurance. How is that, just so people understand, could you go over that insurance piece just a little bit?
It's middle school and above. We don't really leverage insurance at lower levels. And just coincidentally, we've had a lot of screen damage this year, a lot. Like Peter Mullen had 5 instances of what and he's not alone. And so with the new Apple Care, we get for 3 years instead of a 4-year contract. They're great in terms of supporting things, and you get 2 instances per year before you start getting charged. But you know, year 4, this could be ugly. So I sent out a message to all the administrators and please remind teachers. You know, watch kids. I mean, it's simple things. They're not doing it on purpose. So blows a pen, a case. So, you know, sometimes grab the screen, pull it around the screen. Just simple things, just like somebody easily fixed.
Roger. Will we see the, for the iReady, obviously the education software wouldn't all include just iReady, but I assume that's the bulk of it based on Christine Esler's comments. Will that be flat next year? Then we're taking on the licensing for all the district with this price increase, or with this increase in this line item because of the.
Yes, we expecting that moving forward. I need to check with Christine to see license length, to see where we are with that. That is one item of, if you call it the COVID cliff of funding, was that was an item that was paid for through COVID funds. That is one item we need to adopt back into our budget. So, but I can check on licensing because the one we bought first year of COVID was a 3-year license. I don't believe this is, I think this is manual. But that is driving quite a bit of actual Bob's costs is in that educational software line, but I can get that back.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Yep. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Next up, transportation co-director Sharon Lehman.
Hi, my name is Sharon Lehman. I'm one of the co-directors for transportation. And I'd like to first start off by thanking everyone for your support as Aaron and I navigate through the management of the transportation department together. The support is much appreciated, so thank you for that. I'd like to chat about some items in our budget for the upcoming school year. We have requested the addition of 2 full-time bus attendants. And although we have implemented bus safety training for our students, and started that last October, we do still have bus runs and bus drivers who struggle with student management on the buses. And we'd like to add 2 full-time bus attendants so that we can shift them around and help some of our bus drivers with the student management without safe riding of our students. That's distracting for our drivers, and now we have unsafe situations on our buses. So it will help improve the safety on some of our bus runs. Also, we're looking to replace the tablets, GPS tablets within our buses. They are outdated. These currently provide the GPS direction and bus stops electronically for our bus drivers so that they can focus on driving and not have paper lists. They provide turn-by-turn directions. It's also beneficial for a substitute that gets on a bus and doesn't know a bus run. It has all the detailed information, and it's also verbal, so that you don't have to actually be looking at the tablet, but just listening, so that it's turn by turn, it's bus stop location, it's kiddo information. And so we're requesting that we upgrade our current tablets that are outdated. In addition, we also have requested replacement of 2 of our school buses. We are looking to replace 2 that are getting to the end of their useful life. And useful life is 10 years old and about 125,000 miles. So we put a lot of miles on our buses each year. So we want all of our buses and our equipment to be safe for our students. So we're looking to replace 2 buses that will be at their end of their useful life. And that also includes replacing 2 of our vans as well. And the same for the vans, they useful life ends at 7 years and 100,000 miles. And so we're looking to replace 2 vans that are getting that 7 years and 100,000 miles for next school year. And those are a few of our 3 of our high budget items that I want to bring to the table for each of us. Any questions?
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. First and foremost, I wanted to share with the board, I can't remember if I mentioned this previously or not, but huge thanks to Sharon and also Aaron, who's not here, for the tour that March 9th back. Just incredibly impressive operation facility. I was particularly impressed that really there's 1 full-time mechanic. I hope I don't get this wrong. That supports the entire fleet.
Correct, that is correct.
Impressive work. The other thing I would say is, maybe a smaller thing, maybe not, but as you drive around town and you look at our transportation assets, they're always clean, it's always professional. My interactions that I've had with all of the drivers have been incredible. So certainly kudos to you and the team. It's a great team. I also want to say thank you for the new app. Big improvement. So that's awesome. A couple of technical questions within the budget. Purple 57, group health insurance. It's probably about the 10th line down. It just happens to be an outlier, going up almost double on that particular line. Trying to make sure that wasn't an error.
It's not an error because when we changed the leadership structure to it actually then goes to two people budgeting for health insurance versus the single.
Thank you. Supplies budget, that's run in 1 year 1,500, then 6,500, then 10,700. The budget we had in 24 was 5,000, almost 50,000 budget this year. Is that the tablets? Is that?
Yes, yes,
Sorry.
yeah, Tori.
I think that was it. Certainly supportive of the idea of more bus aids. Anything we can do for drivers, I think is certainly what I hear is the biggest thing.
Yes,
Again, kudos to you. Your team is great stuff.
thank you. And
Oh, sorry. So I'm curious about the proposed staff reduction in bus driver and van drivers. Can you speak to that a little bit?
It may be a reduction in the spares
okay,
that we were carrying, because some of the spares we brought on now to full-time drivers. Let me check on that.
Yeah, I kind of thought where we've had to cancel bus runs this year, that we're cutting staff positions, that doesn't make sense to me. How many open driver positions do we have right now?
right now, we're fully staffed for full-time drivers.
Okay, great.
But we do struggle, with getting spares. Although we do have someone currently in training, and then I have, two other, possible applicants interested in full-time positions that will probably be open, next school year.
Okay.
For folks that may depart, so.
Chris, at what point are we going to start looking at ramping up staff and equipment for the new school? I know we're really premature at this point, just a question in my head.
I think we're about a year out with as far as bus runs and also staffing for them. I think the biggest challenge is gonna be the shuttle run between Raymond and Wyndham. As far as the Wyndham side should be the same. I think the other thing that's made it a little bit more challenging to predict, and I'm not sure if anyone else saw this, but I think we reached the point in the United States, there's a recent report out that now more kids get a ride to school than kids that actually ride the bus. So it's now gone the other direction where there's more kids in private transportation than public transportation, which is another factor that we need to figure in, because you plan for full buses and you may only get partial buses, and then you plan for a partial bus and somehow you end up with a full based upon who comes in. So we're still a year away, but we're probably, in that case, it would be a bus or two with drivers. With that. Also, just, and I know Sharon is new to the budgeting process here, but we've tried to get into a cycle of 2 vans a year and 2 buses a year to keep that kind of a flat budgeting. There was a board multiple years ago that had to buy 9 buses in a year, and so ended up with a payment cycle that was very, very difficult. And I think it's important for the public to know, 5 years ago, a bus was 89,000. The last buses we bought were 129,000. So they're going up roughly $10,000 a year.
In addition to parts. Placement.
Sorry, were you done, Sharon?
Is there any plans in the future of looking at electric buses?
No,
Good, thank you.
propane maybe, but not electric at this point. The range, especially in the cold, electric buses are great if you have a very small geographic area that you're working in, you're only doing a few miles. We do here to Dallas every day with our buses, 660,000 miles a year, and a lot of long runs, and doesn't really quite suit itself to the electric buses. We're two large geographic communities.
Good, thank you.
Speaking of that, I was also informed that our roads are not built to maintain the weight of a lot of these larger electric vehicles. But aside from that, could you explain just so the public understands and anybody that doesn't understand on the board, why we lease our buses and we don't buy them outright, that process?
Yeah, the state of Maine has a bus support system where districts can go ahead and apply to have subsidy for their buses. And so we'll go through the application for approval. We do receive in the equivalent of either 4-year lease or 5-year lease payment money back to the state of Maine 1 year forward, where we're able to then receive direct subsidy for the buses that we purchase. So that's why we don't go outright, because otherwise we wouldn't receive that. And think about it, if you're the state of Maine, they also want to be able to benefit as many districts as possible. So cash purchases at $125,000 versus a $30,000 payment, they can actually do more districts with that.
Anyone else? Go ahead. And the first question is, can we talk about what we do with the buses? So if we retire 2 buses and 2 vans potentially, or do we keep them in the wings as backup, or do we sell them? And then, I mean, I understand how we decide what leases might get paid off. Certainly those will be paid off by the time they expire, but can we talk a little bit about?
Sure, there are some buses that stick around as spares. And to the extent that they can be used as backups, we do have buses that we need to take off the road with mechanical issues, and so it is great to have some spares. There are some buses, though, that when they reach the end of their life cycle, even as a spare, we may send them to auction. And if you visit a South American country, there's a chance someday that it may be an RSU 14 bus that you're riding on. Of course, RSU 14 has been pulled off. We send them to auction and whatever we can get for them. We did give a bus to Raymond Rec, which was not one of the ones that would go to another life, but we did give one to be able to support them. And then even one of our vans recently was given to the Wyndham Food Pantry for their Hannaford pickups and such, because we're not transporting students any longer. Bill Hansen got one of them as well, got his district vehicle upgraded from the 10-year-old van that he had. So we try to use them for that, but they extent we can auction and then get a little bit of money for them. But usually when we're done with them, there's usually some structural issues, and at that point, the cross members and things in the back have brought it out, and not going to be safe to put students on.
Great. And then I guess my second question is might be from left field. Sorry, I didn't give a heads up. I just came into my mind, so I apologize. But earlier in the year, we had talked about and gotten a tour from your team around safety innovations that we might be looking at for buses in the future. We talked about cameras on stop arms. We talked about cameras on the back of the bus. Does this budget reflect any investment in those safety investigations?
I don't think in the investigation, but we do when we are looking to purchase a new bus. We check to see what else safety-wise has been added for cameras, stop arms, anything that is new to the industry that has an implication on safety for the students, and more likely than not, we'll have that added to the bus purchase.
Okay, so a little bit of a sidestep, if you'll allow me. So is there anything right now that you're looking at investing in to add to our current fleet that's already been purchased in the vein of that conversation?
I don't believe so.
To adapt, we had talked about adding maybe cameras to the back, or motion sensing, or
So the newer buses that we're ordering are coming through with all the possible camera options. I think the buses we bought over the last 6 to 8 years have the stop arm camera already installed on them. It's kind of become a standard piece of equipment for those buses, which doesn't require some of the even older cameras required bus drivers to trigger when something was happening. So that's
Right.
the technology is
And
going
we actually, I think we have a bus that has a rear camera. And it hasn't been successful for us in trying to get information from a vehicle that may have passed our bus unlawfully. I think that's what you're referring to, these things added to our buses so that we can stop these people who pass our buses, make things unsafe. But
anyone else? Okay, I have a couple of quick questions. You had some line items for field trips, which makes sense. I know that's additional runs. You have to support the bus
Mhm.
driver for that. My understanding though is that those are reimbursed by the building, whoever had requested the field trip. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Field trips are reimbursed, athletics are not.
Okay. And the other question is you had, under soccer licensing, you had something for contact tracing, and that surprised me because I didn't feel that we were still doing that.
That must be an error, so I don't.
Okay. It was on the
That's,
white page 50, soccer licensing.
yeah, that when we purchased the original tablet, when we purchased the tablets originally, we were using them for contact tracing. And that is probably a leftover subscription fee for the tablets for the upgrade. But we will double check. It's probably most likely the subscription fee is there and not necessarily that it's being used for the function of contact tracing.
Okay, but the software that we still have, that we just don't use for that.
No, there's a subscription to keep those tablets up to date as much as they can. So there was an ongoing, and then you'll notice there that there's the 35,000 is the purchase of the new ones. Double check that.
That was all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Facilities Director Bill Hanson.
Good evening, it's great to be here. It's hard to believe it's been 15 years. How that happened. And fun 15 years. So I want to start by thanking my staff. Because we cannot do what we do every day without the efforts of tremendous people that are in there in the trenches every minute, making the school safe and for kids to get here. So it's a huge undertaking, and I'm so grateful for all of you there just for something. Secondly, I thank the board. In these 15 years, we have done a lot of great work. I really believe the schools are in a better place now than they were 15 years. And that I could not do without support, so thank you for that. So every year I go over this, I'll be really brief because I was late. But the facilities you have, and I would always tell you we're worth around $200 million. Now, based on the price of our new middle school, I'm telling you that that was not correct. It's actually higher than that, right? So we look at what it takes to maintain those buildings. If everything had a 50-year life, if I say now that we're $200 million, I need $4 million just to replace them. That's not operating. That's just replacing things that should be going at rate of 50 years. And we all know that 50 years is not something that a mechanical system lasts, or air conditioner, or lights, or all those things. It doesn't work. Right. Finally, your new building, your brand new building you're standing in now, in 2004, it's 20 years old. So you go back, challenge you, go back to your house, your 20-year-old house, you know, obviously, are your windows are in good shape? Your siding okay? How's your driveway doing? Right? So that's what you're faced with this. It's a huge undertaking. The budget that I have is very confusing. And one of the things I really don't like about it, it's one of the ways the DOE sets it up, is we have 3 types of projects pretty much here. We have what we call MIP projects, maintenance improvement projects. Those are in the budget. But they're pushed to the various cost centers that they're in and not put in one tab, which I don't really like that. So what you'll see areas make R&M lines that will go up one year, go down a lot next year, up the next year. It's because that's what those MIP projects go. So that's one of the things I don't kind of like very confusing. The next thing to do is the next set of funding we look at is CIP or lease capital improvement projects. They do very nicely put those under one heading, so that makes it easier for the board to look at and just understand how that's spent. But, and then the last thing that we do, which again, you've been very good for us, is that we spend money on called CRP, capital reserve projects, which is fund year-end fund balance transfer. It's actually a great way to fund things, particularly long-term projects, as well as one-time expenses that are not going to occur for a very long time. So, and those expenses also carry up over a fiscal year, which makes it very handy for looking at projects that are over multiple years. So, if you look at the budget, the facility budget this year, there's one of the big areas where cost increases like. And if you remember last year, I said the good news was that our contract was up in December. The bad news is we're going to pay a big price this year and next year. This is year number 2 of that. And the good news also is that Superintendent Howell and I did take and extend our electricity contract for another year, and actually get a little bit lower rate, not much, but it wasn't higher. We're still waiting for those rates to kind of come down. We anticipate they're going to, so we haven't done any long-term contracts. It was really great to make it up. I think it was 4 years and 6 cents a kilowatt. I'd really love to go back to that, but that's not there. Other areas we're having, increases were really around supplies, had some there. Had a little bit around, excuse me, take my glasses on here, substitutes, was another area, and then leases also are up. You'll see no over MIPs down. So, another thing that you'll see year over year tracking my budget is it can be all over the place. And one of the things that my position is that if something's broken, we're gonna fix it. We're not gonna have a school where you come in and you find things are broken or not right, because the first impression I want staff and students to have when they come here is a good place, it's ready to go to lose this. So sometimes that means that my budget's in a challenging place. Superintendent Howell is always aware of where I'm at. We have conversations about that, but again, that has been my feeling, is that we're not gonna allow things to be broken or not look right. Now, I'm not gonna say we're perfect. We miss the mark sometimes. Every time I see a ceiling tile that's broken or what, I get angry. I wanna change it right then and there, okay? Because again, what we're trying to do, and my staff does a great job, is make sure that this building is a great place for kids and students to come here. So that, again, our objective is that when they're here, they can focus on educational deliverables purely, not be distracted by building issues. Because that's why they're here. Okay, so with that, I won't go into any more discussion. I'll go right to any questions you have.
Go ahead, Marge. Okay, first off, I want to thank everyone that has presented. I mean, I don't know what we would do without you. I think you are excellent. The people that work for you are great. And thank you for all you do. But if we go to page 19, the white ones, 19 of 77, and I don't know if this is for you, Bill, or really if it's for Chris, but there are 6 line items for resource officer, and if somebody could explain the breakdown of exactly, they're not the same figures. And I know we have 3 resource officers, so if you could tell me what is one on these.
See, 19 and 27, I have 19 and 24 in mine, so that you want pink or white?
Pardon? I'm on white, I said, 19 of white. 19 of 77 on white.
So my numbers, I'm 19 and 24, so that's not having a little time. For resource officers, remember, we have 3 right now. We have 1.
We have 6 listed here, so that's what I'm trying to follow. 19 has 3 listed, and if you go over to the next page, which is 20 of 77, there are 3 more.
It's the way that they're allocated across the budget. So you have 3 individuals that are covering 6 buildings, and it's all broken down by taking their salaries and then breaking them out by number of pupils that are within the school, and then allocating the cost out. Because they spend some of their time in each of the buildings.
But there's a big discrepancy in the like you have, like 2 of the line items are a lot larger than the other 4. But anyway, I don't need an answer right now.
Portion of the size of school.
Okay. Okay, and the other thing is the last page, which is 26 of 77. I'm just curious on the school crossing guard. I assume this is the one at the Manchester School. And is this, and I'm not sure if that's, because I know there was an issue down there. Is that a private company?
No, that is Wyndham Fire Police.
Is it private?
And when we lost the private firm that was doing it, and then lost the private person that was doing it, Wyndham Fire Police stepped up, and this represents the rate. And that individual is absolutely fantastic at running traffic in Manchester School. So
She is.
Yep.
Okay,
But that's through Town of Wyndham and the Town of Wyndham Fire Police with contract.
good, thank you. Roger.
Comment, not a question. So, similar to what you said and similar to what's been mentioned, you weren't here, I believe, I gave some remarks after touring the schools earlier this year. But what you said reflects what I said at the time, is that, you walk through a building that's well kept and taken care of, and you don't necessarily notice. You walk through a building that's not well kept and not well taken care of, it's obvious. And I have this bad habit of just looking for that. And as I walk through every school in our district, I don't think I saw a single dirty or broken ceiling tile. I didn't see anywhere that needed new paint. I was truly taken aback by how well kept every one of our buildings are, regardless of age. And just truly a testament to your team and the leadership. It's really incredible, frankly, how well kept our facilities are. The one question I had, because you answered all my other ones, was on, I'm looking at purple page 8. I guess I like the purple, everybody else likes the light. Sorry. Substitute custodial. I noticed that there was a big increase in spend this year with zero budget. A pretty healthy budget for next year. I'm just curious, year over year, why the change, the big increase there?
I can answer that absolutely. So, we've been short-staffed with staffing, and how we feel that is body temps. Okay, and body temps are expensive. And unfortunately, I haven't found a Zumba robot I can put in to do the work that our staff will do. I wish they, in some respects, which we could. We have done things to reduce some of our custodial needs. We bought a swimming machine that we use the floor of the high school that sweeps and washes at the same time. So it cut down the first time we go to sweep the floor first before washing. So we looked at that technology. But yeah, that increase is pretty significant. It's to cover those costs of the temporary labor that fills those holes. We have staff that are out now. Every day, we have about 30 custodians that are working, and it isn't very, very rare that I have 1 or 2 out there in the week, which means I'm working short. One of the things that we do is I do try to cap the custodial cleaning at 20,000 square foot per year. Some schools are going 30 and 40. The problem with that is when I'm short a person, I'm really in trouble. And we can't keep things clean and like that. So really it comes down to having the staffing to get the work done. I wish honestly that I could hire 2 more full-time people that could be floaters in different places, but I don't think it's a right place to do that. I think when we get this new middle school and add another 265,000 square foot to our fleet, we need to think about how do we handle those subs, because we need 2 and 3 people short. They've been nice this year. Primary school has been 3 people short. There were a couple of times that Mike Duff and I've got to help me, which is a little hilarious, but we're willing to jump in and do that. So that's kind of what that's.
That makes sense. And I think that it's probably something I'd like to talk more about as we finalize this budget. Your head one right reminded is, the offset overtime and offset vacations and things like that. Should we be thinking about additional full-time positions, either in this budget or future budget, assuming we can build them, but so that's something we should be talking about. Thank you.
Another really challenging thing is a lot of our staff have been here quite a while, so we have a fair amount of earned vacation time as well as accumulated sick time. And then they also all have 5 personal days. So if you add that up, I'm almost 2 people short when I start the year, just when you look at the time they have available.
And in transcending your area to all areas of the district, we're also looking at
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Sharon.
Not so much a question, but just in kind of an observation and kind of tagging on to what Joe said. I was, and I'm sure a lot of people were a couple months ago when we saw on the news that a school district not far from us woke up one day and were notified that you can no longer use this building for your students, right? And the crisis that had to have created not only for staff and administration in the district, but the students and the families, and where do I go now and what do I do, and we never want to be in that position, and I thank you for leading that charge, because it's in everything that you do is that you will never have our students in that position, so thank you.
Thank you for your support, being able to do that. And, we have a great team. It's way bigger than myself. It starts with support from Kyle all the way down through. So thank you.
All right, Jody.
I just wanted to clarify, and I think for people listening as well, that know our board's very aware of this. You've talked about electricity costs a couple of times, and that gets lost a little bit from meeting to meeting, but it looks like if I had added up the line items properly, approximately, Mr. Howell, I'm sure you have this in the tip of your tongue, but 37% of your increase this year is just electricity costs without increasing any usage. I think that's important to point out. So while you're charged with doing everything we talked about tonight, that money is literally going to just an increase for something that we're already using. Having said that, I know that we've invested in some more power purchasing agreements recently. We're looking at some of those solar credits coming online, and certainly with the new middle school builds, having talked about and already decided as a team to set that new building up for solar. Those are some of the things that we're doing to mitigate some of those costs, and certainly that's going to become more important for the RSU as well. I just want to make that comment because that's more of the detail. I think it's important. You're not able to use those resources. It's almost $163,000. That's just going to that increase.
But I think it would be great maybe at the next facilities maybe that we actually did a deeper dive into where do we stand on our offsite solar, where we are on credits and you know, we're starting to see more parks come online, which is helpful. And I also want to remind you that we just air conditioned Manchester last year. So that's an offset going the other direction, but probably 4 or 5 days in, I got 3 or 4 emails from teachers saying this is a game changer. It's actually 2 in the afternoon and I feel great. I can still continue to move on and teach before I was exhausted. So again, we'll take the board for that because I think they've been waiting a long time for the air conditioning and it's really made a difference. And that and get education deliverables now they're not at 80 degrees or 85 before they actually sit down and make it work. We're excited about making that same upgrade at maybe not the school. It's a big push this year. This will be a busy summer for us, for sure.
You all set? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we are moving on to item 11, executive session. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible readmission of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 556B.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Right, motion carries. I was waiting for that. Go ahead.
Yes, okay. I move to approve the student under consideration be readmitted to school and that the superintendent provides the parents with a written summary of the board's findings.
Second.
All those in favor? Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. Motion carries. May I have another motion?
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible readmission of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056B.
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries.
I move to approve the student under consideration be readmitted to school and that the superintendent provides the parents with a written summary of the board's findings.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Student is readmitted. May I have a motion?
I move to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries. Good night.